But we got a lot to get to, so let's get started. Some very popular names in the NFL let go today. But first, we start off with a contract extension, and it is a mega one for CeeDee Lamb. He signs that 4-year contract extension that makes him the highest non-paid quarterback in the history of the NFL. At wide receiver, he is now the highest paid, hundreds of millions of dollars, of course, guaranteed. In fact, I believe the number is right at 100. And so Lamb will report to camp, and he will start playing for the Dallas Cowboys immediately. We'll see if this changes the trajectory for Jamar Chase, who is practicing but does not have a new contract, or even Brandon Ayuk, who we'll touch on in just a minute. Meanwhile, in the preseason, if you watch some of the games, you've noticed that they went to a digital first down marker, meaning that they could figure things out like the rest of the world using digital access technology. Not going to happen. Chain gang is back. You're going to see them on the sidelines. I don't know why. This was reported last night, but I guess they just didn't like the way that it went in the preseason, and so the chain gang is out. You're going to see them on the field measuring for first downs once again. Also in the National Football League, ESPN reporting that a portion of the NFL franchises can be outsourced, or as we would say, sold to public investment funds. So get ready. A portion of your favorite National Football League team may be owned by somebody else. 10% is the number that Adam Schefter, as you see, put out here. And naturally, Saudi Arabia, will see if they get involved in some NFL franchises as well. As we mentioned, Cutdown Day is today in the NFL. And several players who you may be familiar with their names have already been cut, and more are coming. Bailey Zappe, remember him? Played for the New England Patriots for a little bit last year when they figured out Mac Jones couldn't play. They've waived him. So he is out. They have a good starter, as they think they do, in Brissett. Backup in Drake May, or you can flip-flop those. Bailey Zappe is out. He'll get picked up by somebody else. Kendrick Bourne, also for the New England Patriots, going to start the season on the PUP list, so he's ineligible to play in the first 4 games. Patriots really up against it to start the season. Carolina Panthers make an interesting move today. Jonathan Brooks, who was thought to potentially be ready by week 1 or week 2, is not going to be. So he will start the season after drafting him on the physically unable to perform. The Panthers will not be using him in the first month of the season. Also, the Chiefs will keep pass rusher Charles Omenihu on the PUP list as well. He tore his ACL in the AFC title game last season. Also, other players we won't see in the first month, not a huge surprise. TJ Hockenson is going to be out for the first month with a torn ACL. He hurt that last year. The Browns released Siaki, their 3rd-round pick just from last season. The New York Giants have decided to part ways with former Pro Bowler Allen Robinson and also wide receiver Isaiah Hodge. And Uchenna Nwosu has an MCL sprain, so the Seahawks have traded for Trevis Gibson. The Washington Commanders have also made news today. No, they're not changing their name back to the you-know-whats, but they do have new stadium rights. Northwest Stadium is the new Commanders' name for their stadium, and this is effective going into this season. So when the Commanders open up at home, you're going to see this as Northwest Stadium in the future. I got to get used to calling it that immediately. Connor Stallions, remember him? He was the one accused of stealing signs and being on the sideline on behalf of the University of Michigan, but doing it for somebody else. He has a Netflix special out right now saying that he did not obtain signals through in-person scouting. He made the claims in April during a video with NCAA investigators, and you can see it on Netflix if you want to watch it. It's called Sign Stealers. He said that he didn't direct anyone to go to a game. And basically, he's denying all involvement. You'll have to watch it to see for yourself if you believe him. The Big Ten has revealed the football tiebreakers for their 18-team conference. Here we go again. The tied teams will be compared based on head-to-head matchups. Makes sense if they tie. Tied teams will then be compared to record against all common conference opponents. Okay, sounds just like the SEC. And then from there, the tied teams will be compared based on record against common opponents with the best conference record and proceeding through the common conference opponents based on their order of finish with the conference standings. Did you get all that? Probably not. Read about it online would be my suggestion. Lane Kiffin has hired his brother to coach at Ole Miss, Chris. He's going to be joining them. They play Furman on Saturday. They're going to win, I would suppose. Georgia's running back Roderick Robinson has been injured. No word, by the way, on Trevor Etienne, if they're going to play him. And they play against Clemson in the first game of Saturday's big slate of college football. That's a noon Eastern kickoff Saturday. Bryce Harper walked off yesterday for the Philadelphia Phillies. Josh Hader takes the loss. RBI single in the 10th inning as they beat the Astros by a final of 3-2. Some feel this is a potential World Series preview. Remains to be seen. Phillies get game 1 there. Cubs swipe 8 bags yesterday, 21 hits over the Pirates, 18-8 the final. 8 stolen bases is their most in 100 years as the Cubs are trying to hang on for the playoffs. They'll face off with Paul Skeens and the Pirates again today. The Cardinals have placed Wilson Contreras on the injured list. They're hoping he will return this season. It's the second time that he was placed on the injured list. He broke a finger after being hit with a pitch last week. And Danny Jansen made his debut again yesterday for the same team, or I should say a different team in the same box score, and ended up the game. Remember, he was that guy who caught one game in June and now played with a different team in August. Same box score, 2 different teams, in case you missed it. All right, the U.S. Open. Tennis is underway. Let's get to the very latest. There's a new seating policy, by the way, that allows fans to sit wherever they want. Imagine that. And right now, it's sort of a little bit different, I think, under this new policy, with people with tickets at certain sections can move all the way down on courts 8 and 16 wherever they want during play. And so they don't have to just wait during matches when they're in between timeouts and things like that. Novak Djokovic opened up his bid for a 25th Grand Slam win with an easy win. He defeated Radu Albat 6-2, 6-4, 6-2 on Monday night. Djokovic is the second seed going into the U.S. Open. Coco Gauff also started her title defense with a win as well. She wins 6-2, 6-0. Also, 16-year-old American Eva Djokovic, or Jokic, wins opening U.S. round match as well. She's 16 years old. She beat Magdalene Linette 6-4, 6-3. Sports betting news. DraftKings is now officially open for business in Wisconsin. A brand new deal was just signed upon and approved, and they will launch in Wisconsin this week at the Flambeau Band of Lake Superior Chippewa Indians Lake of the Torches Resort Casino. If you live there, you probably know where this is. I have no idea, but it's a cool name to say. Caitlin Clark and the Fever beat the Dream 84-79 yesterday. Kelsey Mitchell scored 29 points. The New York Liberty back in the win column after a tough loss over the weekend, 84-70. They end up defeating the Mercury. And the Washington Mystics beat the Storm yesterday. They win outright. They were 10.5-point underdogs in their game in the WNBA there. So we're watching all of the news in the National Football League. Naturally, some big names are on the chopping block at this point. As we mentioned, a former Pro Bowler, Allen Robinson, who played at such a high level for such a long time. It just simply didn't work out once he left the Bears. You have to wonder if his career is over. He was let go today. And also many other players will be cut, let go, and traded as well. And so while we're not rooting for this, we will keep a close eye on all of the players changing places. They still have several hours to get their rosters down to 53, but many teams in the National Football League actually have to let go of 25, 30 players today. So we'll keep an eye on that for you throughout the day. And, of course, on Pharrell Coast to Coast, if anything significant happens, he'll give you the latest on that as well. Sam McQuillan is with us from Legal Sports Report. We'll dive into the latest National Football League responsible gambling news. Again, the league is trying to curb the illegal sports betting and their own players betting on different things. We'll dive into what the rules are this year so we understand them going into the season. But first, let's bring in Sam. Sam, we heard about this last week, that DraftKings, there was this lawsuit that was potentially going to be filed about some deceptive bonuses that they were offering. Tell us more about the story here and if the lawsuit indeed is going to continue.
Yeah, Craig, this is actually just one of a couple DraftKings lawsuits that we've been talking about over the last couple of weeks. Just today, you had some news come out about the NFL Players Association suing over the NFT Rainmaker marketplace, which is now offline. But this story is actually in Massachusetts, like you referred to, deceptive marketing, deceptive advertising, if you want to put it that way. This one group is essentially saying that the $1,000 sign-up offer that you have when you go on DraftKings basically misleads people. It gets them to sign up to the sports book, and then they can't figure out how to get the money. So essentially, it's accomplishing their plan of attracting customers without actually having to shell out the money. This group, the Public Health Advocacy Institute, details in its lawsuit about these onerous playthrough requirements where you have to initially deposit $5,000 to even become eligible then play through it, about $25,000 worth of bets within 90 days to then get your $1,000 credit, which is non-refundable. So this group is really targeting this bonus. It's not just in Massachusetts. It's been in a lot of these other more recent states that have legalized sports betting. And the latest development is that now the case is going to be allowed to move to the discovery phase, which is really important. The court came out and said, DraftKings, we hear why you want us to dismiss the case, but we're not going to buy your argument. We're going to allow it to proceed. And why that's so important is because in the discovery phase, that's when this group is going to be able to press the executives at DraftKings for information on the bonus, how many people were able to sign up, what those numbers look like, which is really interesting because we rarely get information from the companies about who's actually using the bonuses, who's qualifying. We get in their earnings reports, hey, this is how much we spent on customer acquisition. This is how many new customers we acquired. And you've seen over the past couple of years, that trend has gone better for the companies. They've been spending less and acquiring more customers. Now, is that because they've been able to deceive customers like this group is alleging here? We'll have to see if that's been the case. It could be a number of other reasons, but really interesting and could have a big impact on the broader industry as well, especially because this group is one that took down big tobacco in the 1980s. So they're kind of looking at this as sort of their watershed moment for gambling. But the wheels of justice grind slowly. So we're going to have to wait till December for the next development in the case.
Yeah, at the very earliest, I would say, based on that. All right, so we're going into the NFL season. We saw suspensions with sports betting being legal coming, especially, I thought, about a year ago, where a couple of players were suspended and a couple, banned from the NFL. So now there's new training involved, Sam. What does this involve as far as like monitoring the players to make sure they're doing the right thing?
Yeah, it was sort of surprising that the NFL came out and said, hey, this is the first time we're going to have in-person mandatory training for all 32 teams where the coaches, player staff, everyone will be in one room while this training happens, talking about gambling awareness, have these several principles like don't bet on the NFL, don't have someone bet on your behalf, a proxy betting situation, don't share inside information with anybody, don't gamble while you're at a team facility or while you're traveling for work, which we've seen some players and coaches get in trouble for in the past. Don't enter a sports book during the season, and don't play daily fantasy football games like Prize Picks, games like Yahoo Fantasy. So all core tenets that have been part of the program for a while, but this is going to be the first time that they have everyone in one room, and it's mandatory for everyone to go through this training together, which they hope will inspire more questions, more engagement. They're going to have former players at this training as well. A lot of people are kind of surprised that this wasn't required already. The NFL came out and sort of clarified that, hey, we've had all types of gambling awareness training mandatory for a very long time. This is sort of a new added layer we're putting on this. And this is the first offseason. We've almost made a full offseason without any major gambling suspensions in the NFL. Last year, we had about 10 or 11. So it's a big change. Obviously, you've seen all those policies and all those suspensions handed down. Maybe that's encouraging players. Maybe the NFL is just getting better at this kind of stuff. So they're doing more. It's obviously they always want to tout that they're doing more. They've come out and said that, threats towards players are up slightly. Some of that having to do with sports betting, some of it having to do with other factors as well. So it's something they're taking very seriously. They talked about all the game day monitoring that they do. They have these different agents tasked to every team, which we had never heard about before. So they're really taking gambling seriously, at least so they say, and would expect more and more kind of in this direction as the season approaches. And they cross their fingers for no gambling suspensions this year.
Yeah, and responsible gaming is always very important, and it's just a matter of the NFL enforcing this. And it does look like quite a bit of money is being spent, Sam, to try and stop this. I mean, the NFL is worth billions and billions and billions of dollars, so they certainly have the money to do it. But at least we're seeing that there is a council involved, that they are making the effort to try and do so.
Yeah, the NFL has had this relationship with the National Council on Problem Gambling pretty much ever since sports betting started to spread to other states in 2018, 2019, when the Supreme Court repealed PASPA. And they this past week, they renewed their commitment for an extra 3 years, assigning $6.4 million to this organization, which is in charge of the National Gambling Helpline. They're the main gambling harm prevention advocate nationally. They work with a lot of, inner cities on gambling awareness training. They work with Congress on legislation. They work with different states. So they're essentially the big organization that represents this. And actually, the biggest commitment in their history was the previous one that the NFL gave. So now the NFL is kind of breaking its record and giving more money here. That money is going to be used to modernize the National Gambling Helpline. A lot of states have very specific helplines where if you call a certain number, you need to get rerouted to a different state. There's different numbers in different states. So they have a 1-800-GAMBLER number, which kind of unites everything there. And they're going to use a lot of the money, too, to create programs in underserved communities where people are maybe more, inclined to be exposed to the risks of gambling. Maybe, young athletes are more inclined to be, someone come to, obfuscate or mess with them or try to get, them to manipulate a game in some way. So that's going to kind of be the focus of the money here in terms of the National Gambling Helpline prevention, and then also creating a program for these underserved communities. So a good example for the rest of the leagues to follow, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Sam, enjoy the rest of the week. We'll talk again soon ahead of the NFL season. Thanks for coming on.
Yep. Thanks, Greg. You too.
All right, Sam McQuillan with us here on Newswire. By the way, you can read all about the stories that we talk about here on the show on a daily basis over at LegalSportsReport.com. Coming up next, Brady Cannon joins us as he's getting ready for Week 1 of the National Football League. A little bit over 1 week away. We'll preview the Ravens and Chiefs and also get into everything happening in the National Football League. Also, a couple of cuts to tell you about in the NFL, more quarterbacks being let go. Backup quarterback for the Detroit Lions, Nate Sudfeld, has been waived. So that means Hendon Hooker looks like he is the backup going into the season there. Lots of other action going on in the NFL. Cuts. This is the final day that teams can do it to get down to the end. Bailey Zappe's been let go by the New England Patriots. It feels like the quarterbacks right now are the ones that they're deciding on. And I suppose teams look at it, and the way that they do is that if we're going to pay for a backup quarterback, we may as well go on the cheaper side and maybe bring one of these guys back on the practice squad. I'm not really sure. But either way, we'll have more updates for you throughout the day.